On to this news in the Middle East of Israel arresting a journalist. She happens to be Palestinian. The claims that she was glorifying Hamas's attacks on October 7th and inciting terror stem from some Facebook posts. Marwat Al-Azza is 45 years old. She's a freelance journalist working for NBC News. We're just showing you some of the video from the terrorists, actually. This doesn't have anything to do with her, but just in terms of those days, those early hours of those brutal attacks on civilians. She was making posts on her personal Facebook page and making light of what was happening in some people's estimation. NBC News responded to this arrest by claiming it had no prior knowledge of her Facebook posts. The network says those predated her work for the company. NBC also announcing it had cut ties with Al-Azza following her arrest. That is when they stopped working with her. But we want to talk a little bit more about this with NewsNation media analyst Colby Hall. Colby, I read into this because I wanted to understand what exactly Israel could charge her for. But we know that her attorney said that she did not deny making these posts on Facebook that were clearly one-sided, that she's cooperating fully with the investigation. And NBC says they didn't know. Is it that these legacy media companies are not doing proper vetting, proper legwork, or is it that the Israel-Hamas conflict has brought us into this whole new uncharted territory?
I hate to say this, but I think it's a little bit of both. I think, honestly, I'm not sure what specific crime she is guilty of. I mean, she posting stuff that's promotional of one side of a conflict as incitement of violence, that might be a stretch. I'm sure that NBC News, if they'd known that where she was, they would not have hired her. And of course, I think in hindsight, every sort of freelance journalist that doesn't work out, they'd wish they'd done better legwork. I mean, this is a very similar story that happened with an AP photo, who was a stringer who was on the attacks and took photos here. I got to say that, you know, I'll cite Leland Bankert, who's done a ton of work in the Middle East. He says, you know, when you're reporting in a war zone, you have to have some contacts with unsavory figures. And some of these people turn out to be bad guys. And I think NBC handled this pretty well. But yeah, I mean, the fog of war, some of the people that you're dealing with, some of your sources turn out to be really bad people. And all you can do is just cut ties and move on.
It's understandable, and we've talked to others. You and I both have worked with people in media for quite some time. Those who are journalists who do the very painstaking work of being on the ground in these regions of conflict, we cannot suppose what they go through on a day-to-day basis in walking that very fine line in covering the conflict between friends and enemies. However, when you see imagery of photographers with their hands in the air holding their cameras, and they had to have had some knowledge of what they were going to see, and they're there capturing the moments where people are being stolen away, raped, shot at point-blank range. Israel releasing video on Monday because they're endeavoring to kind of paint a fuller picture. We're seeing countless images of children in Gaza, and again, heartbreaking. But we're seeing fewer images of those hostages taken on October 7th. I didn't really ask you a question there, but it's just there is some call for accountability here in terms of what is right and what is journalistically appropriate when covering a war zone.
Well, the photojournalist that came up earlier, you know, Gaza is a very difficult place to sort of report from, right? Like, very few, if none, Western journalists were really sort of allowed in.
They weren't there, yeah.
Right. And so Western agencies like Reuters and AP and CNN needed to have what we call stringers, or freelance photojournalists, who captured the story, what was going on in there. And, you know, they spent years uploading photos to a service that people could then license and put out there that told that story. Only after the fact did we know that a handful of these people appeared to be in on those attacks. And, you know, once that was found out, these outlets said we can't do that. But, you know, again, it's a kind of a no-win situation. You need those photojournalists should be held accountable. If they were a part of and documented those atrocities, I feel like they are guilty in sort of being accomplices, right? To adjudge these media outlets to have worked with these people after the fact, I think, you know, you can say that you should have higher standards, but hindsight is always 20/20, and the fog of war makes it really, really challenging. So I tend to defend the media here because I think, you know, what else could you do? Once they found out, they did the right thing.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.